Hey, everybody, welcome to Takeoff with John Clark, and we have a very special guest, a two-time Super Bowl champion, of course, with the Eagles, also the Patriots. We welcome in a former Walter Payton Man of the Year Award winner, Chris Long. It is good to see you again.
John, it's good to see you, man. How you been?
Been really good, and you have a really great event coming up here in Philly next week for your Chris Long Foundation. We're going to talk about that. But I want to put you on the spot, Chris, because you're a Super Bowl champ. You know what it takes to win a Super Bowl. When you see this Eagles team, the way they're rolling right now, do they have the potential of being a Super Bowl champion here?
Certainly. They're one of a few teams that, in my opinion, have the most potential to be in that game, compete in that game, win in that game. I think the thing they have going for them is, you look at the NFC and you think about the traditionally tough matchups like San Francisco. They're down this year. Certainly they've already seen the Packers, who are a very good team. That's a team that will be tough in the playoffs, but they've beaten that team. Minnesota as well. But the team that I think everybody's wondering about is Detroit. Like, can they hang with Detroit? They can absolutely hang with Detroit. I think in a game like that, it kind of comes down to coaching and quarterback. And so, how well can Jalen Hurts play in a situation like that, and how much can you get Jared Goff off the spot? I think the defense is in a position now with the development of some of the young players, the insertion of Cooper DeJean into the lineup early in the year. They completely switched that thing around, and tackles are playing well. We all know, we've heard plenty about Saquon, the offensive line. That helps them kind of have a fighting chance in any game they play in. It's such a differentiating factor. And I think the collision course between Detroit and Philly, that's one that's really fun to look at on the NFC side of things. And then once you're in the big game, anything can happen.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it. You're seeing the schedules that line up for the last 5 games with the Lions and the Eagles. The Eagles are at home for 4 of the 5. The Lions have a pretty tough schedule facing the Bills. Then they have at the end the Minnesota Vikings with the 49ers right before that. And they also have the Packers this week. So that's a pretty tough schedule. Can the Eagles get that top seed?
No question they can. And I think my prediction is that the Packers win this game tonight. At the very least, they keep it close. I don't think what they did in the first game that these two teams played was indicative of how this matchup will play out. And I think they've got a shot to go in there and win. So, you could be waking up Friday morning saying, hey, we're right there. And as you mentioned, John, you stare down the stretch at the end of the season and you say, hey, we like our chances. So, and that's one big thing is like Detroit, with the pass rush being in the shape that it's in, it's one place you have a major advantage. Teams like that have some trouble on defense from time to time, they can really use the boost of home field advantage. And conversely, I feel like the Eagles playing at home in January with this group, you compare it to our 2017 group. People ask me what group's better. I think the back end on this group is a lot of fun, and the backers are playing really well. We had a really good defensive front. These guys are coming along. This could be a better group, but we'll see. They've got to get it done in crunch time.
And it's interesting because you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, they've got problems at tackle with their offensive line. The Lions are so banged up on defense. Are the Eagles the most complete team in all of the NFL?
I do think they're the most complete team in the NFL, because you certainly start looking for weaknesses. It's hard to find them once they put out that fire in the secondary. And then obviously the way Nakobe Dean's come along, the way Zach Bond, moving him inside primarily. And the defensive line, like at the end of that Atlanta game, we were kind of wondering where the pass rush was going to come from this year, but it takes time. It takes time to learn how to rush together. And, everybody looks at edge rush and you want your double-digit sack edge guy. We didn't have a double-digit guy in 2017. You don't need one. You need 4 or 5 guys that can really rush, and you need 8 guys that can give you good snaps. And I think they have that. The way Milton Williams come along, guys like that, the way Nolan Smith's come along, the way Josh Sweat's played. But Jalen Carter is your guy. And so if he can be dominant and the other guys can just kind of fall in line, I think they got enough.
You make a great point because they lost Brandon Graham, and then you see some other guys step up. Jalex Hunt stepped up. Milton Williams has really come along. And then You talked about Jalen Carter, but also you got Jordan Davis, who helps make some of these guys better, right?
Exactly. I mean, you look at Zach Bond, who's playing incredible, but like one thing that, sometimes we don't give credit to the guys in front of him too, is they're keeping guys off of him in the run game. Davis he's a man, dude. And so you're not going to necessarily look at him and say, some casual fans might say, hey, where's the production? You don't draft that guy for production. You draft that guy for chaos, for creating, advantageous matchups in the run game, keeping people off backers, disruption. I mean, he does all that.
I'll tell you, Vic Fangio, the job he has done, because you saw the Eagles down the stretch last year in the collapse. They were the worst defense in the NFL, especially through the air. How do you think he did it to turn it around, the best defense in the NFL during this 8-game winning streak?
No, it's been great. And they really are a playmaking unit now. And, you look at Cooper DeJean coming downhill and suplexing Derrick Henry, kind of putting the exclamation point on the game last week. Some of the plays that N'Kobe's made, some of the plays that, again, I think a lot of it is like developing young guys. Quinyon Mitchell is a guy that like, he's my favorite corner to watch in the NFL because you don't have to watch him. That's how I like to watch my corners, is just not watch him. It's like the guy Pat Surtain in Denver. It's like, you don't have to worry about it. He's going to take somebody away, and Quinyon's done a great job. He's quietly been one of the best corners in the league, and he's just a rookie. Would he be that way somewhere else? Probably, but I think when you start naming all these guys that are playing their best ball, the common denominator is the guy pulling the strings. And I've thought he brought a maturity into the equation. And from that standpoint, I mean tenure. He's been in the league a long time. He's a former head coach. He understands that the season is like, it's got different chapters. And if you can just at each checkpoint be where you need to be and keep building, I think that's what you look at when you see his defense and say, somebody who's been there has been guiding this ship defensively. And I think also in big games, Nick's not been doing it that long. He's done a great job, and he's fiery and he's younger. Like, the yin to his yang is this older guy who's very even keeled. You're not going to see Vic damn near show any emotion. And from a game situation standpoint, not just defensively, but I'm pretty sure it's really important to have a guy like that in the building.
Yeah, and I think in training camp, I remember Nick Sirianni, I think his camp practices were a little more physical than last year. They're practicing a little more. He had them back in the building on Monday after their biggest win against the Ravens. And Vic Fangio, he's got his guys playing aggressive, and he wanted more practice time. How do you think that physicality that they have, they're one of the more physical teams now in the league, how do you think that came about and evolved?
They're doing something right because, knock on wood, guys are staying pretty healthy. They've had to replace some guys up front at different points this year, and that certainly you're going to have guys miss games. But you look around the league, and Detroit, they're ailing right now, a team like that. And so if you can just stay strong through December, continue to work the fundamentals when you have a group that's this physical offensively, the offensive line, the running back, the commitment to it that we saw late in the game, finishing the Ravens out in a 4-minute mode. They really are, it's a bully unit. And, you have some teams that think they're bullies and they're not bullies. And then they run into this group. And I think a lot of it has to do with the personnel, but also Jeff Stoutland, as good as anybody in the game. I mean, he helped Fred Johnson get through that spell without Jordan Mailata. He's helped the guys inside. Look what he's done for Mekhi Becton. And I'm sure Saquon Barkley is pretty appreciative of running behind this group. So the physicality that they rep every day in practice, and the defense sees it too. Our defense practices against these guys. So, they're used to it when they run into a Baltimore who wants to run the football.
So the Eagles can win the Super Bowl being bullies on defense, having a great defense, and with a running game on offense. Like I know everybody says the new age NFL, with the passing attack, you have to be able to throw the ball all over the place, but can they win with this formula?
If you play on your game script, you absolutely can. What you can't do if you're the Eagles, like the other day, I thought Lamar let them off the hook a little bit with a couple missed throws. The one to Likely that he missed up 9-0, and the same thing, 3rd and 5 backed up that he misses to Justice Hill in the flat. In a game where the Eagles go down 17-0 against the team, or 14-0, big game, that's rather where I'd not live, But if the Eagles are in phase, they're really hard to beat. Once you get the RPOs going, the QB run, feed A.J. Brown, I think Goddard, I mean, there was a huge 3rd and 7 the other night, hit him on a crosser. Like, they can dink and dunk you to death, and they can take those shots. I just think if I'm the Eagles, I want to live more in the world of let's go on a 14-play drive.
So you've probably heard the narrative out there. They're calling Jalen Hurts a game manager. Now, I looked it up. The Eagles are throwing the ball less than any team in the NFL. They're under 26 pass attempts per game. But, Chris, if you look at the other teams who are right around them, they're all winning teams. It seems like teams are throwing the ball less and running it more. You got the Lions in there, the Steelers, Washington. So is the league kind of changing this year? Can you win with Jalen only throwing it 25 a game?
Well, as time's gone on, teams are less and less prepared to defend the run. I mean, and there are less teams committing to it. There are less teams taking stabs at those big backs, like the great backs, like Josh Jacobs, who changes teams, Derrick Henry, certainly Saquon. It is a differentiating factor to play this way. And so I think this style of football absolutely works. You have to have a quarterback that can make plays and get you out of trouble. I think Jalen's done that at different points in his career for sure. And I think the way he throws that deep ball, the way he can get the quarterback, game managers don't take the ball, tuck it and run for 20 yards. Like, and game manager is not a slight. Like, if the moment demands managing the game, then that's what the quarterback does. I'm pretty sure some of the best quarterbacks of all time would tell you, hey, there were different times in my career where I was managing certain games. There's going to be times to go, with the big shots and the high octane offense for this group. But if I'm Jalen Hurts, like, what am I here to prove? I'm here to win. I'm not here to prove anything, depending on what you think I am, what I'm not. And I'm pretty sure he thinks this way. It's just about winning. So at the end of the day, the most important thing, and I've seen him after games over this winning streak, kind of loosening up a little bit and like smiling. And, he can conduct himself however he wants, but I love seeing him happy and just kind of like a little bit looser. And I think what he's taking some of the pressure off himself. Like, if I had to guess, is like, hey, I got this guy behind me. I've led a team to a Super Bowl. I've been an MVP candidate. Maybe this particular team needs me at times to throw the ball 20 times a game. I think that's fine. I would guess he would think the same thing because he wants to win.
Yeah, and that's another great point by you. And we've heard A.J. Brown this year, obviously not having the numbers statistically that he's had in the past where they were a passing attack. And he said, look, we realize we have a special player back there in Saquon Barkley. And even he was saying, the guys were all saying, Saquon, put your cape on. Become Superman from Clark Kent in Baltimore. And of course, he had another fourth quarter. But does it take a special group of receivers as well as quarterback to kind of sacrifice a little bit for this?
It takes team players. And, I've been really impressed with the way AJ and those guys have gone about it. I think Devontae Smith is like Mr. Team Player, in my opinion. And Jalen, man, Jalen's all about winning. And so, like, I'm pretty sure the guy they brought from Washington, wishes he had more targets, more catches. But, like, I think everybody's just rowing in the same direction. And I think, look no further than that long run they had against LA where, Saquon takes it for 50. Covey makes a block. A.J. Brown makes a block. They're blocking their asses off. And it's like the happiest moment of the game for these guys is watching Saquon get a little bit of breathing room between him and the safety and raising their arms in the air and saying, hey, we did it again. And it's a we thing. It's like I'm talking to Chad Johnson on Inside the NFL here. When you have a great back, the receivers want to block because they know any play they can go to the house. And that's truly what Saquon allows you to do.
All right. Before we talk about your great event, Monday in Philly at Stake 48 for the Chris Long Foundation, I want to ask you what you said about Jeff Stoutland, because I looked up some numbers and yeah, look, Saquon Barkley is arguably the best running back in the NFL. But Chris, it is amazing when you look back over these years with Jeff Stoutland. Miles Sanders, he averaged the most yards before contact in the NFL, led the NFL in 2022, 837 yards before contact. DeAndre Swift was third in rushing yards before contact, and Saquon Barkley is fourth. He has over 1,000 rushing yards before contact. Yeah. So what does that say about the offensive line and Jeff Stoutland?
Jeff has been the consistent thread. I mean, I think Lane Johnson is also somebody that deserves a little bit of extra love, because when you can set it and forget it and you have a left tackle like that or right tackle like that, people call it the left tackle back in the day, franchise left tackle. But in today's game, it's not really left and right, because a lot of the best rushers are rushing on the left side. He's that franchise tackle that you can just say, hey, we can leave you on an island. And I know they do. I know sometimes for big fella that can be hard, but a guy like that being here through the Super Bowl runs, and Jeff, you don't have a guy like that if you don't have Jeff. Like, look at Jordan Mailata, rugby player. Never forget when they signed him. I'm watching the news on Sports Center at a diner. I'd gone camping the night before and just forgot about the draft. And I was coming back, that year was 2018. And I'm eating my breakfast, and there's on the little TV, I see this giant rugby player, and they're like the Eagles. I'm like, damn, I got to go get him in practice. He might not be that good, but that's going to be tough. He ends up being one of the best tackles in the league because they can develop. Same thing with Becton. We talked about that. Guy was New York's trash. He's our treasure. Same thing. Fred Johnson says he saved his career, kind of. Lane Johnson was a JUCO quarterback. Like, the coaching job he's done year after year, and the respect that he garners in that building, and the way guys play for him, they think of him like a dad. I know this. And I played defensive line. He was the first guy I used to go find in the cafeteria to shoot the breeze with if I wanted to ask somebody a question, because he just is a great teacher. And not a lot of teams have that continuity in a room. And the offensive line has been the common thread in all these Eagles runs over the past decade or so. Like, it's just one of the best groups. I think it's one of the best runs for an offensive line in the history of the game. When you take front to back, and it's not over yet.
You're exactly right. We can thank Chip Kelly for one thing here in Philly.
Yeah, I mean, he did more than one thing. I wasn't here for that, so yeah,
No, I hear you. Chris, you got a great event coming up in Philly, and it's really unbelievable what you have done, not only during your playing career. I mean, you donated all of your game checks that 1 year to organizations, and you want to help out the youth, not only in Philly, but St. Louis and your home state of Virginia. So tell us about this great event on Monday, Stake 48, you and Connor Barwin together.
Well, two things I love, Philadelphia and Connor Barwin, and I'm sure we're all in the same boat there. When I signed with the Eagles, Connor was going to my old team and I was going to his old team. And we were kind of like two ships passing the night, and guy I knew and respected, and vice versa. So we kind of traded notes on the city and in the organizations. And so I really appreciate Connor as a buddy, and then also somebody who kind of like has supported my efforts in Philly. And so I'm happy to support his, and we wanted to get together and do this team dinner concept, which is basically like, hey, NFL players, the one thing we always look forward to during the week, besides game day, is like when we get to go out and eat dinner as a group. And it's the whole defense or defensive line or the offensive line. And it's just a group kind of setting where the camaraderie, the stories, the laughs, and we kind of had this idea of, let's have this team dinner in Philly where we can invite our team, which is, of course, the people that have supported our foundations, Make the World Better and the Chris Long Foundation. And we'll do this enough times that it kind of feels like a family dinner, a team dinner. And I'm already seeing a lot of the same faces and names popping up to come back. There's going to be some players there, people you recognize. There might be another big time celebrity impromptu appearance like we had last year. If you remember, Big Dom came. So we're excited to have another one, and Stake 48 is a great place. We appreciate those folks for allowing us to put it on. And if you want to get some tickets, waterboys.org. But in general, it's just two foundations working really hard to celebrate not only the work we do, but the people of this city who have supported the work we do. Like Philly, I'll just say this: when I finished my career here, I was NFL homeless. I did not have a place. Like the place I played 8 years, Connor had Philly. Philly had moved to LA. So I didn't have a Philly. And that was a tough time. And you want to, when you go somewhere new, you want to be accepted. and you want to work hard, and you want to make the fans happy. And what I learned pretty quickly here was like, hey, if you bust your ass, they'll love you. And, if you're just accountable and you stand up and you try to do your job. And that was my experience. So I'm forever indebted to these fans, and I'll always want to do work in Philly. And I know that's obviously the same thing with Connor. So if we can come back and do this year after year, awesome. But we're not just going to we're doing an Ed Zone deal, which we do a lot of essential needs closets in schools, elementary age kids that need like coats, hygiene products, like stuff that you just don't think about sending your kid to school without. A lot of kids going to school without those items. So we started Ed Zone. We've worked in Charlottesville. We're launching in Philly. So we're really excited about not just the water work we do, but the educational equity work we do. And you can learn more about it at the dinner.
That's fantastic. And as I said, Eagles fans, if you're interested in this, go to waterboys.org. It's a great event in Philly next week. And I'll wrap this up with Chris Long. I was talking to Dom DiSandro. He says you are his paisan.
My paisan.
And I was asked to bring up.
He ain't know with the headset.
I'm telling you, last year it collapsed when Dom was kicked off the sideline. Now he's back. He's a coach. He's hearing everything. He told me you have a lot of good stories together, a lot of good stories with the Eagles. Can you discuss the vape pen story on the Chicago flight?
So I've discussed this before. Allegedly, there was somebody hitting a vape pen in the back of the plane. And I don't know who it was because I was sleeping. And all of a sudden, the smoke alarm on the plane goes off. And, Dom comes back, and somehow he finds me and puts his hand on my shoulder, and he's like, hey, what's going on back here? Now, I don't know who did it, but it was really good that Dom came back to kind of set us straight. Because I still to this day, I'm trying to figure out. I was just sleeping. I had gone to the bathroom, left the bathroom, sat down in my chair, fell asleep. No sooner than I sat down in my chair, there's a damn smoke alarm going off. So I don't know what's going on back there. I'm just happy we have somebody like Dom to keep our flights safe.
You didn't get blamed for it, did you?
As a veteran on the team and somebody that would like to think of themselves as a leader, I was happy to take the blame for it.
Wow. Good teammate.
You know what I mean?
Good teammate right there. Good teammate right there. And you're right. We got to check out Dom's record being on the sidelines these last couple of years. Without him.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Good call.
Absolute legend. And hopefully we see Dom maybe on Monday.
Oh, yeah. I like that tease.
Yeah, smoke alarms too. We got to make sure everybody's,
And I saw the pictures on Instagram of everybody who went to your event last year, and they were all of Big Dom and fans.
Oh, yeah. Dom came in and it was like the Red Sea parted. It was crazy. And it was after the San Francisco game, which was not good. So, players after a game like that, you feel like when you walk in the room, it's like, oh, everybody's mad. But nobody's ever mad at Dom, especially after that game. And then this year we scheduled this thing for after Carolina. So let's get this win so my friends come hang out.
Smart scheduling, Chris Long. Very smart scheduling. Thank you so much. And go to waterboys.org. It's going to be a great event. We will see you next Monday, Chris Long. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.